The epic story of New York City, the city that never sleeps. Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Knowledge Channel. Today, we're exploring one of humanity's most remarkable creations, New York City. A place where history, ambition, and resilience collide to form one of the greatest cities on Earth. From a land once roamed by native tribes to a modern-day global powerhouse of culture, finance, and dreams, this is the breathtaking story of New York City. So sit back, relax, and let's journey through nearly 500 years of transformation. Chapter 1, Before the Skyscrapers, the Land of the Lenape. Long before a single skyscraper touched the clouds, this land was a sea of green forests, winding rivers, and coastal wetlands. It was home to the Lenape people, a branch of the great Algonquian-speaking nations. They lived in small villages spread across what is now Manhattan, Brooklyn, Staten Island, and parts of New Jersey. They called their homeland Lenapehoking, the land of the people. The Lenape were farmers, hunters, and master fishermen. They cultivated the Three Sisters, corn, beans, and squash, and practiced slash-and-burn agriculture to keep their fields fertile. Their canoes glided through the Hudson River and New York Bay, trading furs, fish, and shells with neighboring tribes. Many of today's iconic streets, such as Broadway, Bronx River Parkway, and Kings Highway, follow paths first carved by the Lenape. Even the names Canarsie, Hackensack, and Raritan echo their original language, a reminder that New York's story began long before Europeans arrived. Chapter 2, The Age of Discovery, From Verrazzano to Hudson. In 1524, an Italian explorer, Giovanni da Verrazzano, sailing under the French flag, became the first European to enter New York Harbor. He dropped anchor between Staten Island and Brooklyn, greeted by curious Lenape in canoes. Impressed by the vast harbor, Verrazzano named the area New Angoulême in honor of King Francis I of France. A year later, Esteban Gomes, a Portuguese navigator for Spain, explored nearby coasts, mapping parts of what would later become New York State. But it was Henry Hudson, an Englishman sailing for the Dutch East India Company in 1609, who changed everything. Commanding the Half Moon, Hudson sailed up the great river that now bears his name, searching for a passage to Asia. Instead, he found beavers, and lots of them. Beaver pelts were Europe's luxury obsession. Their soft fur was used for fashionable felt hats worn by nobles and merchants. Hudson's reports of rich fur resources inspired the Dutch West India Company to establish trading posts. And so began the Dutch era of New York, or as they called it, Nieuw Nederland. Chapter 3, New Amsterdam, the Dutch Experiment. By 1624, Dutch settlers had established a small colony at Fort Nassau, near present-day Albany. 2 years later, they built Fort Amsterdam at the southern tip of Manhattan Island. Around it grew a settlement, New Amsterdam. The colony was diverse from the start. Dutch, Walloon, German, Scandinavian, and Jewish settlers lived alongside enslaved Africans brought by the Dutch West India Company. By 1640, it was one of the most multicultural towns in the New World. Governor Peter Stuyvesant, a one-legged, iron-willed leader, took charge in 1647. Under his rule, New Amsterdam got its first police force, post office, and school. He also introduced street cleaning and fire regulations, the beginnings of city governance. The Sons of Liberty, led by fiery patriots, clashed repeatedly with British soldiers in the streets, even erecting liberty poles as defiant symbols. The American Revolution soon followed. In 1776, George Washington faced defeat at the Battle of Long Island and was forced to flee Manhattan. The British occupied New York for the rest of the war, turning it into their North American headquarters. Thousands of prisoners were crammed into British prison ships anchored in Wallabout Bay, where an estimated 11,000 Americans died, more than in all battles of the war combined. When the British finally evacuated the city on November 25, 1783, Washington triumphantly re-entered Manhattan, a moment still celebrated as Evacuation Day. Chapter 6, The Birth of a Nation. From 1785 to 1790, New York City served as the first capital of the United States. It was here, at Federal Hall on Wall Street, that George Washington took the oath as the first president. The Bill of Rights was drafted, and the first U.S. Congress convened. New York's importance only grew. The Erie Canal, completed in 1825, connected the Great Lakes to the Atlantic, transforming the city into the gateway for America's agricultural heartland. By 1835, New York had overtaken Philadelphia as the largest city in the United States. Chapter 7: The Immigrant City. The 19th century brought tidal waves of immigration. The Irish potato famine, 1845 to 1852, drove hundreds of thousands of Irish to New York, soon followed by Germans, Italians, and Eastern European Jews. Ellis Island, opened in 1892, became the first stop for over 12 million immigrants seeking a better life. The Statue of Liberty, a gift from France in 1886, became their shining beacon of hope. Factories boomed, but so did poverty. Overcrowded tenements in the Lower East Side held thousands in appalling conditions. The draft riots of 1863, sparked by anger over Civil War conscription, erupted into violence, revealing deep racial and economic divides. Amid this chaos, reformers like Jacob Riis documented the struggles of the poor, while others like Frederick Law Olmsted and Calvert Vaux created Central Park, offering nature as relief from industrial life. Chapter 8: A Modern Metropolis. In 1898, the five boroughs, Manhattan, Brooklyn, Queens, the Bronx, and Staten Island, merged to form the modern city of Greater New York. By the early 20th century, skyscrapers transformed the skyline. The Flatiron Building rose in 1902, followed by the Empire State Building and Chrysler Building in the 1930s, architectural marvels of their age. The subway, opened in 1904, allowed the city to grow upward and outward. But tragedy struck often, from the General Slocum steamship disaster in 1904 that killed over 1,000 people, to the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory fire of 1911, which led to revolutionary labor reforms. The Harlem Renaissance of the 1920s turned Harlem into a global center for black art, music, and literature, with legends like Langston Hughes, Duke Ellington, and Zora Neale Hurston shaping culture forever. Chapter 9: From Depression to Glory. The Great Depression hit New York hard, but it also inspired change. Under Mayor Fiorello LaGuardia and city planner Robert Moses, the city rebuilt itself, creating parks, bridges, and highways that reshaped its landscape. When World War II ended, New York emerged as the capital of the modern world, home to the United Nations, Wall Street, Broadway, and an explosion of art and innovation. But the post-war boom also brought challenges: suburban flight, crime, and racial tension. The Bronx fell into decay, and in 1975, New York nearly went bankrupt. Yet, true to form, the city survived. Chapter 10: The Phoenix Rises. The 1980s and 1990s saw New York rise again. Wall Street roared to life, neighborhoods like Soho and Tribeca transformed into creative hubs, and new waves of immigrants revitalized the city's energy. But tragedy struck again on September 11, 2001, when terrorists destroyed the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center, killing nearly 3,000 people. The city mourned, and rebuilt. The One World Trade Center, opened in 2014, now stands as a symbol of resilience and hope. In 2012, Hurricane Sandy tested New York's endurance once more, flooding tunnels and homes. Then came the COVID-19 pandemic, which hit the city harder than any other in the U.S., but again, New York endured. Epilogue: The city that defines the world. Today, New York City is home to over 8.5 million people, speaking more than 200 languages. It's the beating heart of global finance, art, fashion, and media. From Times Square's neon lights to Central Park's quiet corners, it remains a living symbol of the world's diversity and determination. As the saying goes, if you can make it here, you can make it anywhere. So whether it's the dreams of 17th-century explorers, the courage of immigrants, or the ambition of modern innovators, one truth remains constant. New York City never sleeps, and it never stops evolving. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the history of New York City, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more fascinating journeys through the past. Thanks for watching, and remember, every great story begins with a single city that dared to dream bigger than the world itself.